Good morning, fellow baseball way of lifers. Happy Friday. Hope you're going to have a great weekend. And good thing about this weekend is spring training games are on Sunday. So if you're into spring training baseball, hey, I watch anything baseball. Games will be on MLB Network starting Sunday. Good news indeed. For this little video vignette, excuse me, I would like to discuss one of the questions we had on the site, and that is, when I say Paul O'Neill, what is the first thing that pops into your head? I'll give my thoughts first and then go over some of what you guys had mentioned in the thread and give my comments on that too. To me, Paul O'Neill was the warrior. When people talk about old school, that's an open-ended term all the time, old school, but Paul O'Neill, to me, is an old school ball player. He left it on the field. He gave it all. He lived and died with everything he did on the baseball field, and he did everything he could to help his team win. He had a pretty good career and start with the Cincinnati Reds. He kind of clashed a little bit with Lou Piniella in the beginning. Lou saw that he could hit for power. And Paul, when he first started playing, wasn't much of a power hitter, but Lou worked on him to hit the ball further and farther, and he had a decent home run stroke. His batting average wasn't that high with the Reds. It actually got better when he was traded to the Yankees. He was like in the 250, 270 range. But when he got to the Yankees, that's when he really, really blossomed. He became not only a powerful hitter who can give you that extra base hit and a home run, but hit near 300 almost every season. What amazes me about Paul and the Yankees of that era was don't forget, when the Yankees dominated from 96 to 2000, it was the year, the coming out of the McGwire Sosa steroid era. But the Yankees were never involved with the long ball steroid era. The Yankees defined what a good team should be, and that's basically, excuse me, a solid player at every position who does what it takes to win for the team. And the ultimate leader there was Paul O'Neill. Now, I know Derek Jeter had, but Paul O'Neill, in my estimation, led by example on the field. And if you saw Paul giving it all, I'm sure the other players did too and followed suit. When you look back at that 96 to 2000 team, you think of the core four, Pettit, Rivera, Jeter, and Posada. And the funny thing is, all of those guys are basically, besides Jeter and Rivera, borderline Hall of Famers. So they were very, very good players. And then you had your O'Neills, and then you had your Tino Martinez's. So the Yankees made sure they were solid at every position. And Paul will go down as one of the great Yankees because he was a winner. And to me, he was one of the faces of that franchise when he played. 1994, when we had the strike year, he did win the American League batting title with 359 average. I'm curious to see what he would have done the last 2 months of the season, see if he could have kept it up, had that high in average, and won the batting championship. That just goes to show Paul O'Neill could put up decent numbers as far as the batting average was concerned. He was a 5-time World Series champion, 5-time All-Star. And to me, that is as good as it gets. When you could be an All-Star and a World Series champion as often at 5 times each, that is the mark of a great player. And I think that's something every player should strive for as far as their career is concerned. Paul O'Neill was also a very good basketball player when he was growing up. But as you can see, baseball was where he made his mark. Like I said, he did clash with Lou Piniella for a while. But then when he became a Yankee, he was just amazing. I mean, he came through with clutch hit after clutch hit. And how many water coolers? It was good for water cooler sales, but how many water coolers did Paul O'Neill destroy in his career? I wish there was a stat kept on that. It would be interesting to see how many he did destroy. In the big year 1998, it was one of the greatest teams, not only in Yankee history, but baseball history. O'Neill played in 152 games, batted .317 with 24 home runs and 116 RBIs. And then in 99, he batted .285 with 19 homers and 110 RBIs. And it was just fantastic. That was his send-off. Because when did he retire? He retired in 2000, and 2001 were his last 2 years. So he did win the championship in 2000. Then in 2001, he went out when the Yanks lost to the Diamondbacks, but doesn't take anything away from his career at all. Some of the highlights of his career was he had 3 100 RBI seasons, 90, 91, and 96. His highest OPS was that strike-shortened year of 94, where he had an OPS plus of 1.064, which is amazing, and a slugging percentage of .603. That's fantastic. 5 years he received MVP votes. His highest placing was in 94 when he finished 5th, and finished his career with 2,105 hits, 281 home runs, 1,269 RBIs, and probably something he's not too proud of is the 221 double plays he hit into. I think that is testament to his not being too fleet of foot. He had 25 grounded into double plays in 1995, and in 1998 he hit 22. He hit into 22 ground ball double plays. Overall, I've always been a big fan of Paul O'Neill. I even enjoy his commentary on the Yankee broadcast. Last year during the pandemic, he was broadcasting from his home in Ohio, and it was fun because he'd bring out memorabilia during the broadcast that he had at his home, and he gave it a homey feel, and you got to know Paul a little bit better. I admire Paul. I'm glad he's still in the game as a broadcaster with the Yankees, and I think his legacy will live forever, not only in Yankee fans' hearts, but baseball fans all over. Now let's see what you guys had to say.
As we do every night, starting.
We have Mike D. Francesco, who may have the longest last name in group history. He said he wanted to know how Kramer got into the locker room. As you remember, Paul O'Neill also had Seinfeld claim. Most people associate baseball players with Seinfeld, and the top being Keith Hernandez, but Paul had a legacy with Seinfeld too. Steve E. Harpold says Warrior. Simple enough. Brad Roman highlights the fact that he complained a lot after at-bats. Mike Cisco says part of some great Yankee teams. Steve Hengel says champion. Rich Lamont says intense. Gary D. Palmassi says a Yankee player my dad couldn't stand watching. Now, I'm wondering, Paul, was your father a Yankee fan? I have a feeling he may not have been. And then Jeffrey Conklin says, Paul O'Neill absolutely did not take steroids. O'Neill was slender for his entire career. 100% all on every at-bat, determined. I love that O'Neill would practice his swing in the outfield after making an out. Good memories. Yes, I recall that too. Always had his mind on the offensive at-bat. And Bruce Owenek says when he kicked the ball to the infield, I can't remember who he kicked it to. Yeah, I remember that also. Tom C. Pollock, probably not a Yankee fan, says damn Yankees. Anthony Edward Gramaglia gives a little humorous twist to it about his kicking the ball by saying he could have been a soccer player. Ricky Burke comes out with Tommy Temper Tantrum. That's a cute nickname. Steve Hammonds, I don't know, must not be a Paul O'Neill fan, says crybaby. John Bowie says competitor all the way. Craig Prager says gamer. Patrick Carney says, to be honest with you, I think if the Nob Hill Bar and Grill in Portland, Oregon, they had one of his shoes on display, not a pair, just one, a left one, I think. Now, I guess my question, Patrick, is did someone steal the other one or he just gave one? That I need answered. Connor O'Malley says, I think of his appearance on Seinfeld. Sergio Arenas says the winning run in the World Series. Sergio Arenas also says MVP. I guess in Sergio's book, he was an MVP. And Ted Aronoff reminds us that he also won with the Reds. Yes, he did in 1990. That flies under the radar, but he was a member of that team. Chris Oljetko says, hothead. Scott Roberts says, greatest Yankee, world champion. Paul Briamonte says, a winner, did whatever he needed from him, could hit the other way, would have been a star in any era. And that's what I meant when I said he's an old school player. He could play in today's game, he could play back in the old days. James Carr must be a Red fan because he says, wish the Reds had kept him. Lenny Levine says, gimping after the fly ball to right in Atlanta, lunging and catching it, the final out of Game 5 in 96. Yeah, the Yankees were amazing in 96, coming back against Atlanta, and Paul had a lot to do with that. Delman Donnie Bartlett says, playing with a bad ankle. The guy is badass. Great player. Sepia Prince says, practicing his swing everywhere. Practice makes perfect. Carl Moderns, maybe not a Paul O'Neill fan. It's Paul O'Neill fan says, arrogant, hothead crybaby. Josh Bolden says, well, here's the other half of the equation when he says, Roberto freaking Kelly. What a steal of a trade for the Yankees. Of course, Roberto Kelly was highly regarded as a Yankee, so I can see why the Reds made the trade, but in hindsight, you wish you could have Paul O'Neill back if he were the Reds, I guess. Wade Stackhouse is a legend in his own mind, and I think in the mind of others, but I get your point, Wade. Ralph Joseph Larkin says, poor loser, hothead, never took failing well. Tim Olson says, intense. Let's see. Ooh, Ciro Grassi. What happened? And then BJ Fears goes back to the Seinfeld episodes when he says him and Kramer on Seinfeld and the birthday card. Laugh out loud. Adam Woods captures Paul perfectly when he said, as if he hit a single, he was pissed it wasn't a double. If he had a double, he was pissed it wasn't a triple. If he had a triple, he was pissed it wasn't a homer. If he had a homer, he was pissed it didn't go farther. And if he got out, well, then see above. Jeffrey M. Pribe says, cares about performance. Mark Manzaranis makes me laugh when he says, hide the water cooler. Brian Voynick says he was a powder, couldn't stand him. And a lot of the other replies are similar to the ones that are already mentioned. So I'd say the majority of guys like Paul O'Neill. I like him, but I can see how, he could rub you the wrong way if you were playing against him. But he's one we'll all never forget. And he was on some good teams, so those teams will never be forgotten. So I hope you like this little recap of Paul O'Neill, my input, your input. And if you did like it, just hit the like button below. And by all means, please do subscribe to the channel. You'll get all the updates when they happen. We do these live streams, and then they're recorded for playback on YouTube, and I'll be uploading them on the Facebook group site too. So have a great day, and I'll probably check in with you later. Take care, all.